Hello, my lovely LinkedIn friends and those joining us on Twitch and YouTube. Due to some new plugin requirements for both Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, because you have to say that still, we're not on those platforms anymore, and we probably won't be for the foreseeable. So, primarily here on LinkedIn, Twitch, and indeed YouTube. And today, this episode is brought to you by our good friends, Beer. Beer, it can always help do a good live stream, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it seems like we're falling into some sort of cadence about doing these Freeformers and Friend eps probably once every 2 weeks. For anybody watching out there, for anybody who's interested and wants to join, this is unscripted, unplanned live streaming. This ain't no webinar where we're going to go through sort of pitch decks and talk about stuff and give you demos. This is real chat about the world of work and the future of work and technology and society and everything in between. So, we are here with our very special guest, who is our first guest to return. He had such a great time last time, or felt that he left so much in the tank last time, that he's joined us again. He is currently in Brazil. It is morning there, so I am assuming he's not drinking beer. But let's bring in my dear friend, all the way from Brazil, via Dallas, Fort Worth, FWT. Let's just bring him on. It's Rocket. Hey, dude. Hey, dude.
Hello. Are you in there?
I'm in here. I'm in the UK.
So can you hear me okay? Cheers. I like the beer. Yeah, I have you in my ear. I thought I'd try that for the noise outside, see if it works a little better.
Nice.
It's actually midday. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's midday. It's what, 12 o'clock on the nose? You're only 4 hours behind.
12 o'clock, 12:03. Yep, 4 hours behind. Yeah.
Wow, every day is a school day. The magic of clocks.
Yeah, I'm not drinking beer, but I am drinking suco de caju, which is cashew juice.
Now, you've told me about cashew juice before, and I think we've had a conversation about it before, and I am still none the wiser about why or what cashew juice is.
Well, the thing is, we eat the seed of the cashew tree. That's what you know is the nut. It's the seed that sits on top. Next time I come back, because I have so much left in the tank. I like how you put that all onto me. It's a fruit. It's a piece of fruit that looks a little bit like a nectarine. Yeah, nectarine. And the cashew nut sits on top of the fruit. So basically, there's one nut per single piece of fruit, which is why cashews are quite expensive. So in Brazil, they eat the nut as well, but they also eat the fruit. You can eat it as a jam. It's not sweet necessarily. It's fleshy like a nectarine. It's a little less sweet, but you can squeeze it for juice. And so I like it as a juice. And they drink it here. It's a staple. It's a little bit like squash. If I said it was a little bit like squash, I think people in the UK would understand. So instead of having, what was the name of the big brand? Britvic. There's another one.
Robinsons. They sponsor Wimbledon.
Robinsons. Yeah. Instead of having orange squash or fruits of the forest, it's just think of cashew squash. That's pretty much what I'm drinking.
So I'm just going to fire up Google Images here because, like, obviously,
this is what
we're going to talk about. We're talking
about. What we've been talking about. Yeah,
talking about this thing.
Actually, the one in the center, the one that the man's holding in his hand, that's probably the best representation. That one there, yeah, you can see. That is a cashew fruit. So it looks more like an apple there, but no, think of a nectarine. It kind of is a little squishy like a nectarine, and they use it to make fruit. The fruit. Yeah, and there's the nut inside.
So we just eat that bit and throw all that away?
Yes. Yeah.
Whoa. You dropping truth bombs. Dropping truth bombs on LinkedIn on a Thursday. That's insane. Like, who knew the world of cashews? For anybody watching, if there is anybody watching, we're only 4 minutes in. So usually we get the stragglers joining in about 10 minutes. Let us know what's going on. So we're live from Dis in South Norfolk is where I'm based, to Brazil. Where exactly in Brazil are you based, Rocket?
We say Belo Horizonte. You would say Belo Horizonte. It's the third largest. It's in the southeast. It's the third largest metro area after Rio and Sao Paulo. We have about 6.5 million people, 7 million people in our metroplex area. And it's lovely. It's wintertime. But it's absolutely spectacularly blue and perfect. So
What's the best thing about Belo Horizonte?
Oh, there's so many good things. I mean, the people, the view is beautiful. It's called beautiful, horizon or vista is what the city's named after. We're surrounded by mountains, or large hills, really, since we don't sit on a tectonic plate here in Brazil. Extremely large hills, let's say. The people, the food, the vibe, the culture, it's just very friendly. It's known throughout Brazil as being a very friendly state. And it's the home of cachaça. You ever had cachaça, alcohol?
That's like a rum, like a white rum type?
Kind of like a rum. It's the famous cocktail most people know outside of Brazil's called caipirinha.
Yeah, I've had one of
And
those.
it is made from cane sugar like rum, but it doesn't taste like rum. It has a very unique profile. Think of rum mixed with tequila. That's what it tastes like. It has a very unique taste. Not that benefits people at work at all.
I was thinking, I love
any
that
more
this
than your beer does, but hey, let's start off with an alcohol conversation. Why not?
We've talked about cashew fruit.
We did, and alcohol.
And alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, we should just end it right there.
Yeah.
So I ask this question every stream, but I think I already asked you in this last one because it's called Freeformers and Friends. Did I ask you the question why we're friends?
No, you didn't ask me why we're friends. We did tell everybody our story. In fact, I think you did tell everybody you weren't sure if we were going to be friends anymore. I don't remember exactly. I think you did last time. I don't know. It was only a little hurtful, so I didn't entirely.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't ever intentionally set out to hurt you. Mock you, sure, but not hurt you.
No. I'm not. I'm just joshing with you. Yeah. Why are we friends? Why are we friends? I think we like each other's. I think we like each other. Like we have a genuine affection for each other. I use that word broadly and directly. A great deal of affection, and I think we like the cut of each other's jib. I haven't seen your jib recently, but I'm sure I'd like the cut of it. And some people just get on, and some people have really good taste in American football teams, and some don't. But apart from that, we seem to. I think we have similar likes and interests, and that led you on to something. Now we're going to go.
Sorry, you could see. This is how I know you know me well. Is that you can literally see my face reshape itself when something comes into my head, and then you're like, oh. Yeah, I gotta let this kid speak now. We got a couple of viewers. If you are viewing, if you're watching, just drop a hi in the comments. Say hi, say hello, because we only get the number. We don't get the names. I want to put some names behind those numbers. So I got a couple of people.
I would
watching.
Too.
Yeah, say hi, say hello to us. We are here celebrating that it's the end of Thursday or the middle of Thursday in Brazil, where Rocket is. Drop us a hi, say hello. Don't be in the background. What'll happen now is the number will drop off because people go, I don't want to enter the chat. Enter the chat. It's what live streaming is.
I thought they were going to be talking about work and such.
Yeah, wait, here on LinkedIn talking about alcohol and nuts. How dare you? We will get onto the work stuff, right? Because you mentioned because we had a bit of a conversation about like what are we going to talk about? We're on WhatsApp, like what kind of stuff are we going to talk about? And we got to we talked about this last time. You support America's team.
That's right. Actually, God's team, but carry on.
God, America, all of the same kind of thing. You support the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, who probably the most genuine football team in the league.
Probably, actually.
Probably. Yeah, like, we're not a franchise.
Authentic.
Oh, I like that. Packers, the authentic choice. Anyway, forget about that. You're a Cowboys fan. I was talking to you the other day about a documentary that you haven't seen, a documentary series that you haven't seen. I have seen about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Now, if anybody out there watching has seen it, give us a shout because we have some thoughts. We have some thoughts about this documentary. First of all, Rocket, what's your understanding about like the business of employing cheerleaders?
I know very little, and that's one reason I didn't want to watch it. I mean, if somebody's making a documentary about your family, you have mixed feelings about whether you want to watch it or not. And when I say when you say I'm a Cowboys fan, there's not words to really kind of describe the degree of a Cowboys fan I am. I think, hand on heart, since 2000, since 1997, so almost, how many years is that? Almost 30 years, 1997. I think I've missed 5 games since 1997, 1996. I always found it watch them.
I'm just trying to figure out now, like, how many times you've seen the Packers absolutely annihilate the Cowboys. Oh, so that is the best thing about the documentary, right? The last, I told you this, right? The last episode, because obviously, like, the cheerleaders, they work for a year. They get employment for the franchise for a year, and then they re-tender the role, essentially, and all that kind of stuff. So when it gets to the playoffs, you don't really know whether they've got another day's worth of work out of it. And it turns out they do. The Cowboys get into the playoffs and they play the Packers at the big dome. What do they call it? Yeah, the AT&T.
AT&T Stadium. Yeah, AT&T Stadium.
Yeah. And so like everybody is super excited, like, and absolutely annihilated at home. The Packers absolutely walk over the Cowboys, and I have to tell you, I took so much joy about rewatching that. Not rewatching the game element, but like the whole franchise. Yeah, deep breaths. The whole franchise become completely. Oh, just seeing so many Dallas Cowboys fans upset was really fun. But
I have to tell you that it wasn't completely past me to wear this black shirt, knowing you were going to mention this today. I was just already feeling a sense of mourning and dread coming over me, you know?
Well,
there is a link to work. There is a link to work.
Well, there is. So this is the really interesting thing that we were talking about, right? So for anybody who has not watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders documentary on Netflix, it's called America's Sweethearts, because America's Sweethearts makes sense. One of the real issues that I kind of take with the whole thing, and I'm not sure if it's the same across cheerleaders across all of the NFL teams, but essentially the documentary starts out about saying how the cheerleading organization is like run as its kind of own money-making entity. Like it is it's a profitable organization in its own right. You cut then to like how much these people earn, the people who end up being Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, and this isn't their job. So you've got this franchise making millions of pounds out of the cheerleading organization, and the cheerleaders, this is a part-time thing. This is like something where they are paid not a lot, worked very hard, and then they all still have jobs on top of it to pay for stuff. And I just found it super interesting with an organization that seems that there is a huge amount of wealth. You look at the stadium, you look at the kind of the training facilities and the office area. It's like they're not short of cash. So I like morally, like why wouldn't you pay cheerleaders an amount of money that is in balance with the amount of money it makes the organization? That's kind of my question. And I suppose that's the same for any business, but cheerleaders in this instance.
Well, I was thinking about that. That's a really good point. It's embarrassing. And I don't really think it's a sexist thing. I don't. I think it's more of a cultural thing. I'm curious. They can only be a cheerleader for a year.
So your contract is for a year, and then you can you have to essentially reapply. So there was like veterans that are like 4 or 5 year veterans who've gone through the process, but you go through this really harsh process as well, right? If we're talking about recruitment in the world of work and some of the shittiest recruitment process you've ever seen, it's not that it's pretty robust. Like they know what they want, they get what they want, but it's very dehumanizing, that whole process. Like just watching it is like, ugh. And what you get out of it, you don't even get a well-paid job out of it. End of it, you get like more hard work for not a lot of money. But so to answer your question, it's a 1-year contract, and then everyone gets cut and you reapply.
I wonder if some of it is again, I don't subscribe or think this is good thinking or a good way to approach it at all, or condone it. But I wonder if it's like we can get a fresh group of cheerleaders next year, and you're welcome. In other words, we're helping you. Anything you want to go and do next, it's going to be a lot easier for you to do that if you were a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader on your resume.
But the
And
interesting thing is,
paid to do it. I mean, it's almost like a benefit. Seeing your salary as a benefit of cheering once a week for 17 weeks. In our case, if we're lucky, maybe 18 weeks. But the point is, I'm not saying it's easy work. I think it's hard, and they do extra stuff. Like you said, they go to hospitals, they visit schools, they do big events, and it's a proper job. And I think it's sad if anybody has to do another job to support themselves, to do something that they love. But then it goes back to job. It's a bigger question of, is this work you enjoy? Is it? Certainly, I don't know for how many women it's a vocation, a calling to be a cheerleader, but certainly, it's something aspirational. A lot of little girls want to be a cheerleader. Dallas Cowboys is also, I suppose, it's top of the cheerleading totem, so to speak.
And as a Brit, right, like, I was completely unaware of the whole kind of what was the words you used? Like the aspirational aspect, the huge swathe of people. It's a huge aspirational thing, and huge kudos surrounding it to get to that position, the top of essentially the cheerleading profession. I think it's just really interesting. I think the thing, sorry, the attrition. So right, when they go through that reselection process, what tends to happen, from what the numbers I saw, it was kind of like 80-90% are kind of rehired, as it were.
Oh,
and so there's actually a very small amount are then like new talent or new employees or whatever you want to call it. So like the turnover rate is actually quite low, even though you're taking everyone through the same process to reapply for the job they had last year. And maybe
do you know if they get paid? Do you know if they get paid per game? Do they get paid?
No, they get. I think
on
they're
a Sunday,
paid,
or
I think they're just paid a salary for the season. I'm gonna have I didn't actually look this up, right? Because they never actually quote. They never actually quote the number and how much they earn.
If anybody's still watching, we are going to move on from this, but Toby found it fascinating, and I agree. I think it's interesting that this is a thing in 2024.
$500 a game.
Okay.
And then $10 to $20 an hour for practice.
How much?
$5 to $20 an hour for practice.
Ooh,
it's pretty low, right? I'm trying to do
no.
UK
that's terrible. That's terrible.
Right. Okay. So like hugely talented people put in, and the physical torment they put them through. So there's the move they do, which is like their signature move, the drop split, I think it's called. You literally jump up in the air, you do the splits in midair, and then land. And like some of the injuries these people were getting is just like, whoo, like you're putting your body on the line, getting paid not a lot, doing this on top of your job, and you're like, is it an exploitative form of employment? Because what you're doing is like you say, there is this sense of pride, aspiration to be part of it. That can you exploit that for your own gain? It's a big, heavy topic now.
I think they could. I think they should. I think a lot of them, like you said, they're really smart. They're smart people. They're smart women. And a lot of them have degrees. I know that. A lot of them are, have other aspirations in life, and they just see it as something. Maybe it's a bucket list thing. Maybe it is the kudos. Look, it's very, there is definitely a huge amount of cachet related to saying you're a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. So I don't think it's going to hurt their career. And if they're ambitious, then it's kind of something you do. And it is fun. I mean, they seem to have fun, certainly. I've seen them a couple of times in games, I mean, at live games or at events, and they seem really genuine. It's a fascinating. What I'm curious about is how it compares to cheerleaders in the NBA. Because if you go to a massive sporting event like an American football game, there are 80 to 100,000 fans there. To be honest, The last game I was at live, I think I kind of noticed the cheerleaders 2 times, maybe just by looking down and thinking, oh yeah, we have cheerleaders, because it's not like they stand out and do routines that people watch, right? It is more of greeting the team. You know, it's kind of, they're kind of there announcing the team on the field, and they're there on the sideline, typically down by an end zone, you know, and it's kind of, it doesn't mean as much as it did 30, 40 years ago. But now with all the cameras they have, you know, the whole league has evolved so much. The whole sport as a business, getting back to a business conversation at work, the whole sport as a business has evolved a lot over the last 20 years.
Okay, so the average salary per game for an NFL cheerleader. So what do we say? The Cowboys were paying $500 a game.
Yeah.
Apparently it's $150 is the average.
So the Cowboys are paying a lot more. So you obviously know that going into it. You're going to be on TV. I think it's a kudos cachet thing for a lot of the women doing it. You know, they don't have to, you know, it's not a life calling. It's not your vocation. It's not going to be your main gig, but on the way to doing something else, I think it's not going to hurt to have it on your resume.
Apparently in the NBA, the average is between 200 and 650. So we're looking that the going rate is like hundreds of dollars, right? No one's paying thousands, which I find really, it's just very interesting. Like, you know, because it's is it a hobby? Is it employment? Like what is it? And but that's the troubling thing with the documentary is that it opens by saying they make millions out of the cheerleading organization alone, and then it cuts to these people don't earn very much money. Like you're like, who commissioned this and who wrote this? Because like that does not play well in any circumstance.
I don't think the documentary is there to promote cheerleading in the NFL. I think it's there as an expose. It's more of an expose piece. You know,
but it feels like the Cowboys franchise may have walked into it thinking it was more of like a fluff piece, like, oh hey, aren't the Cowboys cheerleaders really great? And then actually, from a British perspective as well, right? So a lot of the conversation I've had is with other British people, not other Americans, which is why I'm interested to sense what the vibe is with yourself, right? In that, like, people have just been watching it through their fingers, going, "Oh, is this real? Is this real?" But
how do you think I would feel as a Cowboy fan? You know, since 1974, I was a Cowboy fan. That's the first year I remember watching the Cowboys, thinking that's going to be my team. You know, I don't know if it was like with you with football, but it's like Liverpool. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. I was a Liverpool fan in the 80s. I think 1979 or 80. For some reason, you know, that's back in their kind of one of their heydays, and they were on the telly in the States, and I was getting into soccer because we had a league back then. When I was a kid, if you wanted to be kind of cool and fly, you played soccer. That was the new thing. Soccer and surfing. Those are the two things that the girls really seemed to like. They used to go after the surfers and the soccer studs, they called them. So I played soccer, but I just clung on to Liverpool because that was a team that was around at the time, certainly in the American purview, so to speak, and I just have been a Liverpool fan ever since. I mean, I'm a very loyal sports fan. You know, I may be somewhat delusional, but I try to be realistic. But I'm a massive fan of teams and of identity and identifying myself. You know, it's so interesting the energy you get when you go to a big game. If you've ever been, have you been to an NFL game yet? Yourself live?
Only here in the UK.
Okay, it's a little different there, but with any large thing, any like soccer, football, like, or real football, I've been to some matches there. I've been to some matches here in Brazil, and the camaraderie and the energy that you get. Like, I'm not a crowd person. I hate going to shopping malls especially during holiday seasons or in the summer when the kids are off. I hate it. I feel very stressed out. Within 5 minutes, I just want to either head straight to a bar if they have a reasonable bar, or I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore because I don't like the energy, because it's chaotic. You have a couple thousand people heading in every direction, doing their own thing, and they care about what they care about. But when you go to a sporting game and you're part of a team, or you have a team, it's not just that you're part of a team. You're part of a tribe. You're part of a community. And you're there singularly purposed to kind of take on the other team with your team. Like you are the 12th man, I suppose you would say in football, the 12th man. We have the same in American football, and the energy is intoxicating, and it is rather religious. I would say it gets into a spiritual place in terms of feeling you're part of a community. We could easily swing that metaphor into work, by the way. But,
I'm gonna swing into. Well, we talked about work. We have talked about work. Look,
okay.
On this show, we explore all avenues of paid employment, and we've talked about paid employment. The thing, I'm gonna have to just go back through my mind because I kind of lost it. But okay, I can't remember what I was going to say. So let's talk about community, right? So, I think we talked about this previously when we did a pilot podcast. When you came over here, we went to a little place in East London, and we talked about some stuff, and we recorded it and haven't published it yet. But the thing is that that community, that like you said, almost semi-religious kind of experience of bringing people together. Do you see those in workplaces?
Do you see them ever? Sure, you see them. Do you see them enough? No, not at all. Can we talk a little bit about the word community? It's
go for it.
It's one of my favorite things to talk about, as well as the word communication. Let's start with community. It's a compound word, right? Common unity. Community. And when you're looking at forming common unity, there's a big question that we should be asking, especially in the workplace. Let's just stick on community in the workplace, there's a question we should be asking that we don't. It's too easy when you're looking to form community to see all the great things you have in common. Oh, you do? Oh, I do. You like that? I love that. Look, we should be in community. Look how similar we are. That's not a good marker for the health of a community. Something I'm much more curious about, and I think a better question is, well, what are the areas that we don't agree on? And are they backbreakers? Or can we agree, for the sake of common unity, to release our connection to that thing in as meaningful way that we would have it outside of the community, right? Am I willing to not feel as strongly about that for the sake of common unity? So it's more about not what we share in common, but what don't we share in common, and what are we willing to give up individually so that collectively we can come together to form common unity. So then if we kind of skip to the word communication is the act of forming common unity, right? Common unity-ation. So what it means, the act of shaping common unity. And so when you talk about communication, it's not, well, I communicate. I told you 3 times. Well, if you told me 3 times, either I haven't listened, I don't really care. Can I say don't give a shit? Can we say shit on LinkedIn?
I think I already swore already, so it's fine.
If you have to tell me 3 times, either I didn't pay attention, you didn't get my attention, or there's something that we're just not connecting properly. So would you say in that context that we have achieved proper communication? I would say no. Just because you've told me 3 times doesn't mean that we have communicated properly. We haven't found common unity on that issue. And at work, this is a massive issue, and people talk about forming community, and sometimes it feels rather disingenuous. I don't know if that was part of where you were driving it in the beginning, but I think it's essential, absolutely essential for the future of work, that there is a community bigger than just getting a paycheck. There's going to need to be to keep people sticky and to keep businesses thriving. I think it's going to become part of it.
I think we've talked about the power of brand, right? Not as a customer, but as an employee. Now, the thing that I find absolutely wacky is that like people try and delineate employer brand and customer brand, or like the brand of the company and then employer brand is different. It's like, it's not, like it isn't. All you're doing is saying, oh, we want a diverse workforce and we pay well and yada yada yada. It's like, cool. You're just spinning up the other bits of bullshit that everyone else puts on their employer brand website. Like what you have to do is to be able to live and breathe the brand of your customer brand, because that's the expectation, right? It's like we're all aware of this consumer brand. So I have worked for companies as a customer I have absolutely adored, fruit-based computers, dog-based brewing companies, Sean Bean-based telecommunications companies. They're just three, right? All of which you then have a little peek behind the curtain as an employee, and you go, "Oh wow, this isn't anything like I thought it would be." Like I was expecting something really magical behind here, but it's just the same workplace that I'm not enjoying as the other place I went, which had a really poor brand, but like the machine is still the same. So you kind of almost set yourself up for a fail. Is like if you have this really Apple is a really good one, right? Especially in the latter Steve Jobs days where you had evangelical maniacs clapping people buying phones. I gotta say, I was one of them, right? Like I was a fanboy back in the day, but like and then to translate that into employment, there's an opportunity to use that advocacy, the aspiration, much like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders that we were talking about, to your advantage. That should naturally, you should have people that want to perform more, engage more with their job because of that brand. However, you can go the other way, right, and not meet those expectations. And if it's just like every other shell of a company, just with this really nice front on it, then all of a sudden the gap is even bigger, right? So if I go to work for, I don't know, if I go work for Greg's here in the UK, right, pasties, sandwiches, all
I
that
know
kind of
it.
stuff.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
like my expectations are super low. Like I have zero expectation of the employer. I wouldn't expect them to be the most magical employer ever. Yet if I go and work for Nike, I would probably expect them to be a really great employer, like empowering and all the things that their brand evokes. I'd expect that. Now, if they offer both the same level of employee experience, let's say my perception of Nike is up here, my perception of Greg's here, and they both offer experience like in the middle, well, all of a sudden, I think the Nike one is rubbish, the Greg's one is great, even though they're exactly the same. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that's interesting, right? You can just nod and move on.
I think a lot of it has to do with, it's interesting. We have talked about this. We've talked about the size of organizations. When is too big, too big? And let's just, I don't want to shift political. That's not what I intend by this, but I think there's a correlation here. You know, often people describe America as kind of the great experiment, right? And is it too big to fail? And that's a real question. We have a little bit like the UK, but the UK has, you know, a lot more history. America's 250 years old. That's about it. The UK is thousands of years old. But you know, is the experiment, is it too big to fail? If you think of it, there was a documentary about the corporation, you know, too big to fail, about Enron. I think it was, oh no, that was the smartest guy in the room or something. But the point is it too big to fail? And it's a good question. You know, we have two Americas, and is it just too big? Is the divide too, is the thinking about what's best for the country, is it really about that? Or is it what this group believes? They have a vision for the future. This group has a vision for the future, and they're not on the same page. Okay. And going to corporations, if we look at corporations in the kind of the same way, corporations are in a way like mini nation states. Some of them aren't so many. Some of them have massive workforces, but is too big just too big? So you look at companies like Whole Foods, you look at Starbucks, there's a number of Apple to a measure, companies that started off with this very clear vision and mission and wanting to do things in a certain way, and had a passion, and they wanted to find people super evangelical about the calling. Again, it has iconographic, there is a iconographic elements to it. You know, this deeper than, it's not just a job, it's a way of life, it's a way of thinking. Like you said, being a big Apple fan, I'm still an Apple fan, but I wonder if it just gets too big for its boots. Not just cocky, but the swell of the growth becomes so much that there is not just there's not just a material gap between the head office and the founders and the people on the ground doing the work, but there's also a soul gap. because it's hard if you're not in the grill, you know, if you're not in each other's grills. If I can't see Steve Jobs walking down the hallway because he carries so much weight to what Apple is. I mean, he was the walking brand of Apple, just like Richard Branson is for Virgin. We should talk about Virgin too. But it's like, how do you maintain that as you grow as an organization? And what are employees really signing up for? You know, are they signing up for a job to get paid? And at what, if that's it, then this is a great thing also to explore. If that's it, of course you need to be humane and treat them as, and respect them as human beings and be as honoring as you can. But what do you owe them past that point? It's rather transactional. And if we're only looking for transactional work, then you can't pull that rope from both ends, right? You have to accept it's going to be a transactional relationship. I expect you to do a job, to do it well. You expect me to treat you fairly and humanely and to give you the proper tools you need to succeed at your work, right? And if I do that and you do a good job, there we go. We have fulfilled our transactional obligations. Are we looking for more than that? Should we be looking for more than that? So when you talk about branding, which is really a great word for it, and that there is a singular brand, there is a singular identity I think a company strives to achieve, a corporate identity. But I see branding different than identity. I see a brand a little bit like a mark on the back of a cow's ass. A brand tells you a lot, tells you who the owner is, right? And the cows are different colors, shapes, and sizes. I think a brand really is about how I brand, how I feel about that company. What that company means to me is the brand of the business. So if you ask a lot of people, well, what kind of company's Apple? Now you can't do it as much, but like 5 or 6 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd say, tell me what Apple is. They would say, you know, describe Apple. I'd say, they'd say expensive, well-designed, evangelical, cool, you know, they would use a bunch of words. Nobody said computer company. Nobody. They didn't say smartphones. They were using emotional words or critical words to describe the company, you know. And I think moving forward, you know, looking at workforces, looking at forming community, looking at where the future of work's going, this is stuff we're going to have to grapple with, you know, especially post-COVID, the whole hybrid thing. You know, everybody's trying to find their footing. And again, do you think it's unfair if you're really just looking for a job that you're offered anything more apart from your transactional minimum requirements to do the job? Is that fair?
Well, I think it's fair. I think to have that transactional relationship as an employee and employee is fair. I don't think it's, my opinion, well, personally, my experience, not very fulfilling. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel part of the community. I don't feel like I'm having an impact and all that kind of stuff. That is not necessarily unique to me, but it isn't ubiquitous to everyone. So it depends what you want. And I think this is this is the kicker, is that there is an assumption that everyone wants the same thing out of an employer, because most employers design their employee experience the same. Welcome to our company, diverse group of employees. We have this benefits package for you all, and this remuneration, and these tiers for you to progress through, and your learning opportunities, and all this kind of stuff is exactly the same. Regardless of what you want out of this job or not, everything is the same. We're like, well, that doesn't really work. It doesn't really make much sense. You wouldn't do it for your customers, so why would you do it for your employees? Well, because I don't really get money from my employees. It's like, well, you do. I have to believe in my heart, and this is what, you know, our mutual lifetime framework that we've talked about is based on, is that a genuine belief that if you treat people better in the way they want to be treated, you get more engagement and performance, and therefore there's a larger economic return on that. So why wouldn't you? Like, regardless of whether you think it's a good thing for humanity to treat someone at work so they feel fulfilled, they have purpose, yada yada yada, I get that, and I'm not going to ever counter that, because I think that is really important on a human level. We should have more of that. However, no organization worth its salt is going to just sign up for that. They need to know that it's going to prove have a tangible return on investment. Otherwise, why would you bother? So but then it's a balance between those two things. Like you can't give everybody everything all of the time, because if you do that, they're expensive, and you reduce your margins.
Well, I mean, if we go ahead. Sorry.
No, but on the flip side, I was going to say just the opposite. But if you give everybody the absolute minimum requirement in transaction, what do you get back in return? Like probably less economic performance.
How about this? How about we started there to create a new baseline? Because most organizations, or even small businesses, have a better shot at this. But I don't think anybody's a hero really when it comes to let's create a baseline of treating everybody the same with dignity and respect, and as humanely as possible. Start there, because that sure as fire doesn't happen in a lot of organizations. And I don't mean Sally thinks that John gets treated better. I don't mean that. You said before, interesting. I want to come back to this point, because I think a younger generation has a very different view of this. Just treating people how they want to be treated. Well, if you have 100 employees and they all want to be treated differently, or they all have a different view of what that means, how I want to be treated, what is an employer supposed to do? So I think you need to, I don't care what's in your handbook. Nobody looks at the freaking handbook. Forget it. At the end of the day, it's about experience. And can we create a consistent quality rhythm within our organization for all of our people that make them feel and know, not just feel, but feel and know, so heart and mind, right? That these are three truths about this business, about this organization, that they all could attest to. If we could start there as a starting point, the energy that would go into having that conversation would unlock a lot of extra stuff that would end up ultimately benefiting the employer and the employee. But I don't think we're even getting to that fundamental level. Like, what's three truths about this business? We want every employee to feel and know that they are a part of, and that they agree to, and is truthful. It's a truthful feeling and experience they get in working here. Just three things. If we could start with that, cover that ground, I think you would find more malleability, more flexibility from the employer and the employee. Maybe going back to common unity, I'm giving you more of a reason to want to form common unity with me by the chance that, we all share collectively, equally, these three truths about this business. And I know it sounds really fundamental and like no duh stuff, but I can't count on one hand the amount of organizations where I know that that happens. And that dialogue and conversation, I think, is absolutely critical to work moving forward, because everybody's all over the shop. You have multi-generational, multicultural, multi-subcultural, multi-beliefs, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to please everybody, but are there three things that we can agree on every day you walk through the door that you feel and know are true about this business and about your role in the business, which means their role and my role, and that we all share that common unity on three things? What an amazing foundation that would be in an organization to then build on. Because I feel like, more power to you if you can achieve that.
Well, if you can achieve it as well, right?
That was a preach. Sorry.
Good preach. Clip that up. Put that on the internet.
Is there anybody watching us, by the way? Are we just talking?
We've got two people watching. They're just refusing to comment in the comments.
It's okay.
So they're still
I just
there,
wanted to make sure that. Okay, good, fine.
Even if they're not watching, right? This is recorded for posterity, so you and I can at least watch it back again and enjoy.
Sure. I was just curious. I was just curious if anybody was.
Three now. There's a third person who's joined.
Okay.
If you're watching, I'm going to try one more time with you people that are there watching. The third person just left because I scared them, right? But if you are watching, drop us a comment in the comments.
Yeah.
Say hi. This is what it's about. This isn't about. Third person's just come back again. So I don't know why I said that maybe they just accidentally closed the app.
Because it was a good, because this is good stuff and it's a good preach. And I want to know if it's resonating with people, whether they agree or disagree, fine. But it's, hey, Callie. I just saw Callie pop on.
Callie's popped up. Your good friend Rocket, Callie, who apparently you and Callie have conversations all the time that I'm not part of.
No.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, blah 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 blah. blah blah. What are we going to talk about next? I want to go back because you said Virgin, right?
Yeah, tell me about Virgin.
So we did a little bit of a case study which we haven't launched yet. So you're going to get like the pre.
Only me. It's only me that gets to know this, right?
Well, yeah, right.
It's just
Anybody
between
else
me and
watching?
you. Yeah.
So we looked at Virgin, but specifically more Virgin Atlantic, and we looked at British Airways, and we looked at Ryanair here in the UK, and we wanted to kind of look at their case, the case study of what they're doing. So I'm going to just fire this up on the screen right here. We're going to stay in the bottom. We're just going to be here in the bottom, right? So previously, because of the Euros and the Copa America, we did a football case study with Arsenal. That's linked there. If you want to have a look at that, then please go for it. There is a massive picture of an airplane because we're talking about airlines. So
okay, yeah.
There we go. But I want to go down to the graphs, right? So this is where the data starts getting really interesting. For every £1 that these companies invest in the people, this is how much they get back. Now, we went back in time on this because obviously during the pandemic, it's going to be super low. And for Ryanair in particular, that really manifested itself in their, 2021, the kind of the realization of the loss of that value. And you can see in 2022, everyone starts getting back. But the really interesting thing here is that it feels that particularly British Airways and Virgin outperforming British Airways at the moment, possibly an indicator that they have a stronger brand, right? That people are willing to perform more for that company. The really interesting thing is that the Ryanair, budget airline here in the UK or Ireland, is way, way higher. So £11.93 compared to what we're getting, £8.12 at Virgin Atlantic and £7.46 at BA. What do you think that says about the state of those three companies there? Well, what do you think that's indicating?
The only thing I feel right off the bat, and it's easy to read graphs and charts however you can see them however you want to see them. The thing that struck me right away is don't work for Ryanair during a crisis, because British Airways and Virgin are going to be neck and neck for different reasons. I have this view, again, it's branding is so individual. That's why I say it's the brand is in the hand of the beholder of an organization. And I tell companies all the time, this brand management stuff, it drives me crazy. I've been involved with corporate identity for 30 years. You cannot control your brand. You can't control your brand because it's not your brand. It's your customers' impressions and feelings about you as an organization. It's their brand on you. That's your brand. You can control your identity. You can control your purpose, your corporate identity, about your vision and your values and what you stand for, but you cannot control your brand. You can't. The people that engage, if you have an opinion about Apple, that is Apple's brand in your mind, and Apple isn't going to do anything to change it. They may be able to change it, but you're the one that elects to change your view about it. They can't force you to view them any differently. That's on an individual basis. That's the difference between corporate identity, which is about purpose and belonging and what we stand for and what we're like as an organization. That you should be controlling that. And of course it bleeds into messaging, but to say you can control your brand is just, for me, absurd. Especially now, I was saying that 20 years ago before the proliferation of social media, but my experience of you as an organization, as a living thing, because that corporation, it's a body, it's a living thing. My experience of you is what I feel about you, what I think about you. Our interactions together are going to form and shape the way what I stick and attest to you, the way I'm going to describe you to people. That's your, in my view, and in a million other views. So there are a million different views of brands. So how can you control that? The Ryanair thing, going back to Virgin, which is interesting. Let me talk about Virgin for a second. Because Virgin started kind of like this. It was power to the people, give people what they want at a fair price. And the product has held up over the years. What's interesting is it's really wrapped around that vision, that value of power to the people, a little rebellious, a little off-center, more room for more people to play and experience, right? And it really follows just like Apple. Virgin really does follow its creator. in terms of how most people feel the same about the Virgin brand as they do Richard Branson. So if you like Richard Branson and you think he's an interesting guy and does interesting work, you're probably going to like Virgin as an organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
That allowed him to grow beyond flight, beyond airplanes. By the way, I don't know if you know this quote. Somebody asked him the fastest way to become a millionaire, and he said to start off as a billionaire and then to create an airline. Oh, that's pretty funny. But it enabled him to expand that kind of spirit of giving people power to the people, you know, the institutions. It gave him the ability to look into other markets that were kind of capped with a stuffy type of viewpoint where it was very much bottom down, and to go in to make an impact. Sometimes he won, sometimes he didn't. Virgin Mobile, I don't know if they're still around. They might be still around. Virgin Money, even calling it money instead of banking. Call it what it is. What does banking mean to most people? Call it money. Virgin Money. They're still around. They had makeup. They had cola. They had lots of things. Some worked, some didn't. But he tried. Now, contrast that with Pepsi starting an airline. So I accept Virgin Cola. I accept the Pammy. You remember the Pamela Anderson bottle? Called it the Pammy. He tried different things. They were trying different things. They were trying really to see how far they could expand the identity of the organization into many other facets of British life, right? That was the goal. And I really admire that. I admire the effort that it took. Virgin Radio, there's lots of things, right? Virgin Communications, there's lots of things that are Virgin. I'm not sure I'm hopping on a Pepsi Cola or a Coca-Cola plane. It doesn't translate the same. So there's something there that's baked into the organization where it is really driven around a personality. So that's another question. Are we past that personality based, you know, like a personality organization, like a persona organization? Because were you really working for Virgin, or were you working for Richard Branson? Were you working for the idea of what he represented? And is that too big of a gap? And is that why you're heartbroken when you work at a fruit company, when you work at a fruit computer company? Is that why you're kind of disheartened because you look, you know, it's like you're looking behind the curtain to see the little fat guy pulling the levers in Oz, you know? You mean it's not magical? Is that why? Because you had a vision and an idea of Steve Jobs and what he stood for and why he made what he made and a lot of what he said. And there's still a lot of stuff that still resonates. And he was pretty much a sociopath in some ways, certainly a very hard person to get along with. But I don't care what phone you use. I don't care what system you're using. There's only one person to thank for everything we have in smartphones, online communications, the way that we work and react, social media. It's all down to him. If he wasn't the first one out of the gate to say, we have a different vision for the world than IBM, Hewlett Packard, and Microsoft, then I don't think we wouldn't have, he pushed us all so much further. I think people like Richard Branson did that in organizations too. So as an employee, maybe for super young people, Gen Z, I don't know, it might be different. But certainly from my generation down, you wanted to work somewhere where you believed in the vision and the values of the people that founded the company. And you were hoping that somehow that didn't just trickle through or rain through, but it actually was embedded into the fabric of the purpose and meaning of working for them. And so when you go back to that graph, what it shows me, you know, is I'm not sure I'd want to work for Ryanair during a crisis. That's what I saw right away. So yeah, they're outperforming them now. I'd be very interested in other conditions. I wouldn't say that O'Leary's learned his lesson or anything.
Well, let's look at the next graph. So we look what the next thing we looked at, right, was median tenure. So what that now said, like, so I think the number here is actually 2.9. Yeah, so less than 3 years, right? I think the average tenure across all corporates at the moment is 4 years. So the tenure is way lower than like certainly the UK average, but then when you look at BA at 8.1 and then Virgin Atlantic at 7.8, you can see
Very
that it's kind of
close.
having a
Yeah.
bit of like there's not much in that one, to be honest, but there is a clear difference between if we go back up to what seems like actually quite an insignificant gap actually manifests itself as maybe a little bit of a larger gap in performance as an organization.
Oh, I have a great thing about this. So here's how I would describe it. There's some people in my life who I love, and when I see them periodic, I don't see them often. I just like them. I just love them. Oh yeah, it's you, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
I definitely don't see you enough. No, I love these people. I really love them. I feel affection to them. If they called me in a pinch, I would try to help them out. But I have to say, I don't like them much. And there's a difference, and it's not nuanced for me. It's like, and this one person I'm thinking in particular, quite jerky. He can be quite an asshole. But and he's just so overconfident. Like, I mean, I don't mean he's just beyond weight. Like if this is over cocky, he's way over there. And I kind of admire it because for him it's authentic. He is that, like, he's not acting, he's being authentic. That's who he is. Take it or leave it. So I choose to leave it most of the time because I don't like it, but I love him. And I think his authenticity, the way that he presents himself in the world, even though it's not my cup of tea, I feel I really am attracted to authentic people that really author and own their own expression and walk in life. And again, going to Ryanair, that could be the case. It could be something like that. It's like, what, or, it's one of those relationships that are great. In other words, that guy, if you want to party, like I have friends in my life, especially when I was younger, they were party friends. Oh man, I'd love to party with them. But it didn't mean that they would be, by my side through a hard time. But if I needed a lift, I knew who to call. Maybe Ryanair is just one of those organizations, that just they're great for the party, or they're great, for certain things, or if you're at a certain stage in life, but it gets to the point where the relationship gets kind of, you got to move on. That's what that tells me. So in terms of attrition, it's very high. And because, I don't know how they pay their people or whatever, but something's breaking down. So it's good until it's not. When it's not, they're out. So it'd be interesting to kind of unpack that and see what the differences are.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think it's in the case study because we didn't end up quoting the financials, but they certainly do pay less than BA and Virgin, like by a considerable amount. I think the last thing I'll quickly show you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well,
here, because actually we're running out of time.
Just as I know you have to do your card thing, your little shuffle. Real quick.
Well, I don't think we're going to do that because you've already done it before. So
I want to do it again. I don't. But listen, let me just ask you this. Maybe the pay thing goes back to expectations. Maybe it creates lower expectations. So if Ryanair do anything out of the ordinary, on the positive side, it's really amplified because I'm not really expecting it. Whereas in Virgin and BA, possibly the expectation's a little higher, which could indicate why whenever Ryanair are doing something good for me that I'm not expecting, I'm elated, but they don't do it enough to keep me sticky to the organization. So I bolt after time. Okay, go ahead and tell me about this one. And then I want a quick card thing.
So this one is about employee engagement. So Indeed have this really cool well-being score that we can go back in time and have a look at that. And I think, anything below 61 is considered low. So you look at, 2022, BA were just on the low side. Virgin weren't much better. But clearly, recovery post-pandemic, everything starts getting a little bit higher. But again, Ryanair, kind of quite low. Whatever they've done this year, though, seems to be working. So I think there is something to be said there about meeting those expectations and those opportunities to exceed them. But also from a corporate perspective, like if we were just to look at the financials, Ryanair is outperforming both of them financially.
Well, of course, everybody likes a cheap flight. They were even considering charging you to go to the loo on a flight. Do you know that?
It's like,
Or also standing up. If he could find a way to put more bodies and have you stand up with some sort of body harness, he would do that. He would pack as many people on the plane as possible. Bless him. Anyway,
right. Card game.
Okay.
We got the what if cards. We got the
Okay,
business
I'm
leaders
ready.
edition. We got the HR edition.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. You pick one for me, and I won't be a jackass, and I'll pick one in the middle of the deck.
This
time.
one.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're
Okay.
going to pick one in the middle. You're very kind. Not like Callie, who's watching, who always picks one at the very end, who's also
Okay, go ahead.
telling you to get to Minneapolis, is what Callie is saying.
I might come, Callie. I might be there, actually. Go ahead. Stop.
I started. You're really rushing me out the door here. We got like, there's no one really kicking us out the door here. We're not in a meeting room.
No, but you do have something else. I think you have something else soon.
I got to call it quarter past. What if money was no object when it came to offering a new employee a salary?
What if money was no object when it came?
Yeah.
You mean what I think about that? Or tell me what that means. What would
you do? If money was no object when you're offering a potential employee salary, what would you do? Because would you kind of go, well, that's the salary we've always given for that role? Would you give off on a flat rate of like $100,000? Would you ask them what they wanted? What would you do if money was no object? Like, because seriously, most jobs are predicated with a certain value, market value, but you've now got the opportunity to give any amount of money to this new potential employee you want to join the company. What would you do? What's the approach? Because you can't just go, okay, have infinity money. There's got to be like a boundary on it, right? What's the rule that you put in place?
I think the rule is what you agree to. I think if I want them to be in my business, then I highly rate them, and I think I would probably do two things. I wouldn't ask them what they would want, because I don't like that dynamic. They're still working for me. Okay. I lean in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes, sir.
No, they're still working for me. I don't want to create a dynamic. It's not a partnership. It's not a kumbaya moment. I'm employing them to do a job, and I want them to do an excellent job, and I want to treat them excellently in doing it. Right? To me, that's the agreement. So I would look to, if money was no object, I would offer them double of what their best offer has been, and would have no problem doing it. I would definitely want to take care of them. Is that fair to other people? Absolutely not. Do I care? Absolutely not. It's not about.
Do you mean other people in other companies or other people in your company?
Both. Because it's my company. At the end of the day,
you would just double. You're just saying I double the market rate.
I would double the best rate they could get. I would probably double it. And
okay, so you're not even the average rate. You're going to get the best offer you could get in this role. You just double it, hand over fist.
Yeah, I would just double it. I would double it, because I'm saying I think you're double worth what he's willing to pay you. I think you're worth double that. And if they say, well, I think I'm worth triple that, I'd say, wow, that's great. Why don't you prove it to me? Prove to me that you're triple worth it. And then you're kind of, that to me feels like a good rhythm for the relationship. It shows you how much I honor and respect you, but it's my business. And at the end of the day, I'm the one responsible if we sink or swim. So I don't like the dynamic. I don't like that kumbaya, we're all in this together dynamic. Yes, we are. But at the end of the day, I'm going to succeed or fail, and it's my responsibility, and you're going to help me get there, which is why I'm offering you double. I believe so much in you. I think that you are 2 times more likely to help me succeed if you're here than if you're not. I think that's a really strong message. So that's my answer to that card.
I'm nodding, and Callie loves that response. Is what we're getting in the chat. So, I think that's a really fun approach. I don't have an answer, because this isn't. I wasn't posing the question to me. I was posing the question to you. And Rocket, my dear friend, thank you for answering it with the vim and vigor that you have answered all questions and entered the conversation with the spirit of energy and insight.
Wow, that sounded really hippie.
Yeah.
What a way to
Maybe I shouldn't have a beer, because I'm like, oh, you know what? It's about 5 o'clock here now. I could go for a nap.
Should we tell people that we are working on a podcast? I mean, we are working on something that's gonna.
We are working on something. Are we like the Rocket and Toby's 20? I've even forgotten what it's called. The Sports Almanac.
Yeah, the 2050 Sports Almanac. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing
We
a
are
podcast
definitely
about the
working on
future.
it. I think it'll be a lot. I think it'll be great fun. I hope people join us on it. But thank you, Callie, and whoever else joined. I'm sorry I didn't respond in text. Thank you very much for your kind words. I might be able to see you in Minneapolis. I might have a little window in there to fly to be with you guys at Disrupt. It's Disrupt Minneapolis. Is that right? Let's give it a plug.
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
You're going to be there.
Callie, put the link in the chat because I don't have the link to hand, and I know whilst we've been live, Callie's actually posted something about Disrupt Minneapolis, St. Paul. So, you know how British I am. Do you want a measure of how British I am? That I use Minneapolis and Minnesota interchangeably.
Oh God.
Like, I know the same thing. Well, I blame the Vikings as I do for most things, right? Here's the departing question while Callie just gets that link in chat for us. Why are some American football teams like the Minnesota Vikings? So they're named after the state. Thank you, Callie. Link. There's the link. Everyone watching, sign up, follow Callie, do some great stuff. So they're named after the state, whereas like Dallas, Green Bay. Yeah, they're like yeah. What's the deal with that, mate?
I really do. I've thought that's a really abstract thing to think about. I've thought about it a lot. I don't know if it's just more of it might be related to funding too. It might be that Minnesota as a state pitched in to bring the franchise to the state and they planted it in Minneapolis. It could be a city thing or a county thing. It could be a state thing. It could be just a branding thing in terms of, Minneapolis is not necessarily easy. It doesn't roll off the tongue. Not that Minnesota does. It's a little easier. But it could be around funding.
Okay, that's interesting. What a way to end. Callie's also doing a smaller Disrupt event, like a prequel, I'm going to call it, called Story Slam. Really cool concept on August 15th. So anyone watching, August 15th, get yourself down to Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is in Minnesota. So even if I say Minnesota, I'm not technically wrong. I'm just giving you a large area to aim at, hoping that somewhere you might find the venue, which is why the link is in the comments. Rocket, you're going to say one more thing and then we're going to go.
Yeah, I want to ask Callie. Yes, I can't be there. I don't think Toby's going to be there either, but can we join online? I mean, is it do you have an online facility for people to join the event? Because that might, if I'm around, I would definitely do it if I could join online.
This is very much feels like a one-on-one conversation that you are abusing my live stream to have your own one-on-one conversation with Callie. Look, I've talked about my dismay about you stealing my friends, so you can go do one and get off my live stream and have a lovely weekend when you get there.
Hey, take care, mate. Thanks for having me on again. I look forward to the next time.
Catch you later, buddy.
Bye.
Always a fun chit chat with my good friend Rocket there, coming back for appearance number 2 on Freeformers and Friends. We have not got a guest next week because I think we're moving to bi-weekly, and I haven't actually booked the guest for the next slot in 2 weeks. Who knows? We might just get Rocket on again. I don't know. But there is a long list of people that are knocking on the door. It's just quiet around these parts in the summer because everyone goes on holiday. Apart from us here at Freeformers, we're working through the long, hot summer. There are I don't know why I'm even entertaining the fact that I'm going to now share Callie's response to your question, Rocket, because I know you're still in the green room, but there aren't any recordings. So she's going to hope that entices more authentic stories. So there you go, Rocket. There's your answer. And if you want to pick up that conversation, Rocket and Callie, do it on someone else's time because this live stream is over. Thank you very much. I will see you all on another episode.